Okay, I'm going to go over the best setups that happen on the overnight market. Context is that we are moving upwards. Yesterday was here, there's failed sellers down here, so we have an uptrend. We're going to leave the fixed range volume profile up for a minute. Overnight market pushed to a new high and then retraced. So where did it push to? It's actually our textbook setup here. Remember, we have a sell push down here, and that sell push invalidated this low here. So all of this is, well, really, it would have been here and here. These are all second entries that should have held from this. And so once those second entries get creamed like that, we can come up and we can look to see on the fixed range volume profile that there's the low volume node of this area here. So this uptrend that got invalidated is right there. So that's the most important box. I'm going to make it a different color just so it stands out. Make it yellow for right now. It's the most important box. That's our textbook major resistance level. You can see that the market comes up into it. These green boxes, I'm going to talk about them in a second. They are actually inversions on the delta, and you see the market's retesting that. We had another break of structure up there that we could have traded. But the main setup in this is going to be when this comes above this and we get a break of structure. I talked about that in the other video. It's just the exact same thing. So this first one didn't work cleanly. You had a break of structure here, the market comes down below it, and then this level here should have been the sell if that was going to go down, and it doesn't. It goes a little bit higher, and then we see that the fail of the sell there is actually support. So why is that the sell? Because we have a high volume node accumulated up here, and then the market actually pushes down below it. That should be the start of that trend if that trend's going to continue. Here's an entry for that. And so this gets a little bit technical in this. This is the main support level, or the main resistance level that we're trading around. But on this, we can see that this is a high volume, well, not really high volume, it's a low volume node push down. And so this should hold. If this was going to be a type 2 uptrend that was going to continue, either the low right here, this last initiative push candle here would hold, or this would hold there, and this one too as well. So there's three levels that should hold. Why this one? Because it's initiative uptrend push, and you see the market attempts to hold that there. This becomes support right there. Why is this support? I talked about it in the video I made earlier today, that in a type 2 uptrend, when this fails here, this should be a buy entry. So there's an attempt to buy there, but then it goes a little bit lower, which flags that as weak. So that's a little suspicious, especially because we're up on this 3-minute zone. Some of the trades you could have taken off of this, if this was our main 3-minute structure that we're trying to operate against, you have this push here is the type 2 uptrend continuation. If you would have bought that for type 2 continuation, it actually would have worked if you're just taking it to the top. A new low below that is problematic. It tags the LVN on the 15-second, but then when that LVN inverts, that's a good location to enter. And then also when this inverts for the second time, that's a good location to enter. And then also, when you have a move below this initiative push here, or the high volume candle here, that's a good place to enter. So what is the unifying concept around all of this? We have the 3-minute structure that we've talked about, major resistance over here, because these lows of these second entries got broke. This is the low volume node on that. Okay, so we're looking at the context is major resistance up here. How do we sell this if we're going to sell? Well, we wait for the type 2 trend to fail. Type 1 trend failing doesn't mean it's going to reverse. What's a type 2 trend? Go watch the type 2 trend video. This should be continuation. We get a push below it. Maybe would have sold there. It didn't quite work. We get a push below that though, and now this is broken for sure. This is an LVN on the 15-second. It's initiative red push. We get a push below that. Selling here would have worked. This is the final candle here. I'll mark it this way. Push below that, selling inside of it would have worked. And then if we would actually look down here at the volume candle, this is the highest volume candle there. So selling, once we get below that, we have a clear break below that. Selling inside of that is good. So what is this? This is bear initiative buying, or bear initiative selling rather. So bear initiative trades get put on here. They should function as support if this type 2 trend was going to continue. Against major resistance like this, when the type 2 trend fails, you can enter against where those entries should have been. So here, this is an ILVN, could have entered here, could have entered here. And then once we start breaking below that, That's actually a trend shift, and you can just do trend following stuff. Like we have blue delta here, you can also sell in the blue delta. So selling the blue delta in that 15-second would have been a viable entry. There's kind of a problem with selling into that because we have, if we look at the 1 minute, I guess it's not showing up there. Earlier when I was looking at this, oh, it's because it's way back here. There's red delta right here. So this is actually relatively major support inside of this. And so you don't want to be short down there. Selling up here, you're trying to play against whether or not this is going to break against this, and you don't actually know. So it's kind of a tough entry. If you're looking at this, maybe you would have just cleared right here. But once we go below that, which we do, there's an attempt to buy that. It comes up pretty strong off that, but then it starts trickling down. Once we get below that, that's a complete break of this trend. It's a break of the 1 minute delta against this, and you should not be buying this really whatsoever. So then where would your sells be? So if we have a push of this break, that structural break is a condition. I haven't really named it. We call it type 0 trend or something, I don't know. I haven't named it yet, but it's a break. It's a break of all these structures. When you have this longer term support and the break of the red delta here, and this begins crashing, what you can do is you can sell the inversions. So this is a low volume node on this. It actually looks better on a 3 minute. So we'll go back to the 3 minute for more structural stability, a little bit stronger of setups. But it's a low volume node in the uptrend right here. And then once we're crashing through it, as you can see, we push straight through that. If we go back to the shorter term time frame, this is breaking. We crash straight through this. Selling into there is good. Sell there, it's good. So that's the setup for this. I mean, that's a textbook example of how to trade this. You take the major resistance of the 3 minute second entries broke up here. This is an invalidated range, low volume node of the trend right there. You wait for failure of the type 2 trend levels, and then you sell against those. And then once you have the reversal of the 1 minute delta, that's another condition, and then the market is crashing through, you can then sell against what should have been good buys that failed. So this is a LVN. You look on the 3 minute, it's an LVN on this uptrend. Right there is 1, 2. It's right here's the one we're talking about though. And it becomes a scalp in the down direction from here. You can just sell that to the bottom. So this condition down here got kind of interesting because we are moving into lows. And if we look at, you know, what are we, where's our context in here? The market just flushed in there. And I guess in the 3 minute, it's just all red delta. But throughout here, we see that there's more trapped red delta there. There's some inverted red delta here that, you know, I guess that's something. But we're moving pretty close to that. It actually hit that level, and then it bounces off of this trapped red delta. So if this is going to be a major low, we again need to wait for the failure of the type 2 trend, and that signals a reversal. So how do we do that? Well, we would be trading against failed initiative pushes. So right here is an LVN on the 15-second. A blue delta level here, LVN, a push above that. This is an inverted level. Should be a failure right here. So this would be a sell location, except for the fact that this market's shooting up off of this low. And then entering right here is a phenomenal entry off of that. So when you have a major support level like this, which is the trapped delta in a longer term uptrend, an inversion of the same way that this was an inversion of the ILVN, or the inversion of the green LVN, over here it's an inversion of the red LVN. So this should have been a buy if the trend was going to continue right from this level. This would have been the buy here. It comes above that, entering right there, especially after 3 new highs like that, moves us back up to this range up here. And I'll be honest with you, I had a green box here exactly, and I couldn't figure out why I put it there, but the market spiked right into it. It might have been this initiative buying. It actually might have been where the trends failed. But if we're looking at where did the trends fail, right here is the last initiative push. Market's coming up into that, a little bit of a liquidation spike up there. So this is still major resistance because this is a trend reversal level. Like this is another type 2 failure where we were talking about the initiative pushes down. Like this is an initiative push, and then we have market action here that's trying to hold that. This is a major pivot because the market attempted to reverse here. It attempted to continue from this downtrend, and then it broke. And this is a level where a break happened. And so the market stalled right there. Yeah, I wish I knew why I had that green box set up like this before. That's probably why, but I kind of manufactured that one after the fact, to be honest. Okay, so there were some more structural things that went on. Remember, this is major support. I'll just draw a green box down there so we remember that. But this right here is trend continuation attempts. So we have an ILVN or an LVN here. It's a big push right there. We have an attempt on this to hold that high, and then it doesn't work. So that's another reversal level, like we were talking about over here, where that's the attempt to hold, or this one, where that's the attempt to reverse that trend. This is an attempt to reverse that trend because it's an ILVN that has sell attempts, and the market goes around that. So one more thing that, off of this one, the same way that we could have bought this ILVN, if we're assuming that this is major support, buying this ILVN also was valuable, especially with confluent sells. So if you had missed this entry, you can buy here. And as long as this low is intact, this is an uptrend. Once this low breaks here, it's a structural shift, and maybe something's going to happen, and it did. That being said, too, when this inverts again, we now have trapped buyers. So once we get below these lows, like I said, as long as this low is intact, it's okay. Once we've made a new low below that, that low is no longer intact, and then entering here is viable. If this was going to continue down, this would have been the entry point for that. So that was the structural stuff in there. This, I wasn't really paying attention. I'm sure I could dissect it and come up with something, but this video is already 11 minutes long. Back to the top over here, we had an entry of this, of the break of structure. So value is down here, value is shifted higher here. Once we get below that, you can just sell as soon as we return to that. Why? Because we're talking about major resistance up here from the 3-minute level, as well as a potential double top. And so in that, you can just sell once I'll get rid of this one. Once you come under this value level, selling right here for a move down is good. And where did that move down go to? It went down to this ILVN, where there was a confluent attempt to sell, and that's now the bottom of that. Also, that happens to be the major pivot of this failed trend area. So the market is now range bound between this failed sell area, or this pivot, and the top of this, which is major resistance still. So that would be your market condition. The range is basically from here, where this failed pivot was. It was from here to the bottom, and then it broke above that. Now it's from the top to the bottom, and it's just oscillating between the two. This is a different condition, and also I haven't really reviewed this yet. So that was the review of the best setups for the overnight trading action. This 3-minute setup was the best, and then I talked about the context and how you could trade against that. If you're trading against major support or major resistance, you wait for a failure of the type 2 trend and then take an entry off of that, and then that seems to be the best way to do that. You can also wait for a shift of value or break of structure. Shift of value meaning the accumulation of a high volume node and then trading underneath that. So this is one here, and it's another one there. This one would not have worked. You would have got stopped out probably there. But if you would have taken the second entry off of that, it would have been good. So that's this. I'm going to try to make this video series consistently. The best setups for different time frames helps me with reviewing this and understanding this and putting the things in context of the overall market structure system. And you saw a good example of that with this 3-minute entry. As this market pulled back from here, from 30,087 down to here, it's 150 points pretty quickly. So that's a good little overnight trade. A couple other ones. So hope this was helpful. I know it's helpful for me to make these, so thanks for watching. If you did watch these, if you got this far, subscribe to the video, please. Have a nice night. Well, or day, whenever you watch this. It's nighttime for me. I'm going to bed.